The movie opens in 1960s suburban America as a blonde woman watches her neighbor leave the house, then lets herself inside. She closes the curtains, grabs a kitchen knife, and walks through the empty home. The neighbor returns after picking up her son and his best friend from school. She opens the curtains, and everyone jumps out to surprise her. The blonde woman is Alice, the neighbor is Celine, and the entire thing was a surprise birthday party. Alice and Celine are next-door neighbors and best friends, raising their sons, Theo and Max, side by side. The boys are inseparable, making the two families incredibly close. During the party, the boys disappear with a plate of peanut butter cookies. Since Theo has a severe peanut allergy, Alice tears through the house searching for him. She eventually finds the boys hiding inside a small tunnel they dug beneath the hedge separating the two backyards, letting them sneak back and forth between each other's homes whenever they want. Thankfully, Theo hasn't taken a single bite. Later that night, the two women and their husbands keep the party going with drinks, dancing, and politics. Alice is a talented journalist who misses her career and wants to be taken seriously again, but her husband Simon wants them to have a second child. Later, when the two women are alone, Alice admits she's unhappy being only a housewife and mother. Celine encourages her to go back to work, promising she'll help look after Theo, help around the house, or even hire someone if needed. The next morning, Max wakes up feeling sick, so Celine decides to keep him home from school. Later, as Alice is trimming the roses in her garden, she notices Max standing on the railing of the upstairs balcony, trying to hang the birdhouse he built at school. One wrong move, and he's going to fall. She shouts for him to get down, but Max doesn't hear her. So Alice tries to squeeze through the boys' secret tunnel that divides the two backyards, but her wide sun hat gets stuck, wasting precious seconds. She gives up on trying and sprints all the way around to the front of the house, screaming for Celine, who's inside vacuuming and can't hear a thing. By the time Celine finally hears her, it's already too late. Max loses his balance and falls from the balcony. Both women rush outside, but there's nothing they can do. Celine collapses beside her son, cradling his lifeless body in her arms. Her screams echo through the neighborhood, while Alice stands frozen nearby, overwhelmed with guilt and unable to process what has just happened. She walks back home and sits alone in the dark, replaying the tragedy in her head, wondering if she could have done something differently. Later that evening, Alice and her husband go next door to offer their condolences. Celine's husband Damien answers the door instead. He thanks them for coming, but explains that family members will be arriving soon and asks for some time alone with Celine. The couple leaves, but from her own house, Alice can hear Celine's heartbreaking screams as relatives try to comfort a mother who has just lost her only child. The next morning, Alice tries to explain to Theo what happened to Max, but the words simply won't come out. Seeing her struggle, Simon tells their son that Max had a terrible accident and is gone now. When he asks if Theo understands what that means, Theo replies that Max will be buried in the ground and they'll never see him again. He doesn't cry or lash out. Instead, he just clutches his stuffed bunny tightly. Alice worries that their son doesn't seem to understand what's happened, but Simon reminds her that everyone deals with grief differently and that Theo may simply be in shock. A little later, Alice realizes Theo is missing. She searches the yard until she hears voices coming from next door. Through the hedge, she sees Theo standing beside Celine with their hands clasped together. Theo asks if Max is going to be buried and whether he'll go to heaven to be with the angels. Alice calls Theo back home, then asks Celine if she's been avoiding her. Celine throws her a venomous look, turns around, and walks away. Later, Alice tells Simon she can't stop thinking about the accident. She says she should have reached Max sooner and believes his death is her fault. Simon reassures her that it wasn't her fault. It was simply a terrible accident, and there was nothing she could have done to prevent it. That night, Theo walks into his parents' bedroom in tears because he left his stuffed bunny at Celine's house and can't sleep without it. Alice tells him it's too late to go and get it, so she invites him to sleep in their bed instead. The next day, everyone gathers for Max's funeral. The service is heartbreaking, and Damien tells Max that becoming his father changed his life forever and that losing him is the greatest pain he has ever known. After the ceremony, Alice asks Theo if he'd like to say goodbye to his best friend. Theo walks up to the tiny coffin, but the moment he looks inside, he freezes. Resting beside Max is his beloved stuffed bunny. Theo bursts into tears and tries to grab it, shouting that Bunny belongs to him. Simon carries his screaming son outside, embarrassed by the scene, and scolds him for behaving that way at his best friend's funeral. Alice, however, defends Theo. She reminds Simon that Bunny is Theo's favorite toy and can't understand why Celine would place it inside Max's coffin without even asking. After Max's funeral, Celine leaves town for about a month. When she finally returns, it's for the school's annual carnival, and everyone is surprised to see her. She tries to act like she's doing better, but the moment she sees Theo, she faints and collapses to the floor. When Celine wakes up, she finds herself lying down in an empty classroom with Alice sitting beside her. Alice asks why she came back if it only makes the pain worse. Celine admits that the silence in her house had become unbearable. She couldn't stand being alone with her thoughts anymore, so she thought coming back might help. She then tells Alice that she barely remembers anything after Max's accident, but she knows she pushed her away. She apologizes for shutting her out and admits that she needs her now more than ever. Alice forgives her, and the two friends reconcile. Sometime later, Celine invites Alice and her family over for dinner. The atmosphere is tense from the moment they arrive. Damien refuses to come downstairs, shouting from another room that it's too soon for this. Celine apologizes for him and tells everyone he's not feeling well. She then brings out a basket filled with Max's toys and tells Theo he can play with anything he likes. She also returns his stuffed bunny and apologizes for taking it without asking. Celine explains that she didn't want Max to be alone, but admits it was wrong to take Bunny because it belonged to Theo. He accepts her apology and hugs her. Simon suggests they should come back another time, but Celine insists they stay. A little later, Theo asks Celine if she's ever going to have another baby. She explains that when Max was born, the doctors discovered something inside her was broken. They fixed it during the operation, but afterward they told her Max would be her one and only child. Meanwhile, a very drunk Damien accosts Alice in the hallway. He asks if she misses his son, then pulls her into a long, awkward hug. Later, Alice and Celine go outside to smoke. Celine admits Damien blames her for Max's death. He has never actually said it, but she can see it in the way he looks at her. She says nothing feels real anymore. It's like she's walking around in a cloud, and if she slows down, she'll stop functioning altogether. Alice tells her she understands guilt better than anyone. She explains that her parents died in a car accident while she survived, and for years she believed she should have done something to save them. The guilt became so overwhelming that after Theo was born, she was too afraid to even hold him because she thought she might drop him. Simon eventually convinced her to see a psychiatrist, and she spent some time in a hospital. That's where she learned that grief and guilt are two different things, and that she had to separate one from the other. Celine says her situation is different. Alice was only a child when her parents died, but she believes she failed Max because she wasn't watching him. She says that without her son, she doesn't know who she is anymore. One day, Celine asks Alice if Theo can spend an hour at her house because she has a surprise for him. Although Alice feels uneasy, she agrees. A little later, Alice looks outside and freezes when she sees Theo standing on the same balcony where Max died, blowing bubbles. She sprints toward the boys' secret tunnel and this time crawls straight through it to reach Celine's backyard in seconds. As Alice reaches the house, Celine steps onto the balcony beside Theo. She explains that she was watching him the entire time, apologizes for frightening her, and says they're coming down. Later, Alice tells Simon she believes Celine set the whole thing up to test her. She thinks Celine wanted to prove that Alice could have reached Max in time if she had gone through the tunnel that day. Simon says her anxiety is taking over and warns her not to think that way. Theo grows even closer to Celine and even asks Alice to invite her to his birthday party. Although Alice dislikes the idea, she agrees. During the birthday party, Theo's grandmother Jean pulls Celine aside. She tells her everyone shares her pain, but Theo's birthday is supposed to be a celebration. She says children don't always know what's best and explains that staying at the party isn't helping her grieve and isn't fair to Theo either. Celine is very hurt by her words and excuses herself to go inside the house. Inside, She finds Alice and asks if she has done something wrong. She says Alice has been shutting her out and wants to know why. Instead of answering, Alice asks if Celine put Theo on the balcony to test her. Celine is stunned and asks if Alice really believes she's capable of something like that. Realizing how cruel the accusation sounds, Alice apologizes. She admits she can't stop thinking about the fact that she crawled through the boys' tunnel to save Theo, but couldn't do the same for Max. Celine comforts her, and the two embrace. As they hug, Alice sees Jean wobble around in the yard through the window. Then she falls to the ground and dies from a heart attack. Jean had been taking heart medication for years, so Alice requests an autopsy. Soon after the funeral, Celine visits to comfort Theo and Alice, but Alice feels she's becoming too involved in Theo's life. The autopsy reveals no trace of Jean's heart medication in her bloodstream. Already convinced, Celine blames her for Max's death and is punishing their family. Alice begins to suspect she replaced Jean's medication with placebos. She hides Jean's pill bottle so she can have the pills tested, but it mysteriously disappears, leaving her with no evidence to prove her theory. A few days later, Alice and her family have dinner at Celine's house. Damien is there to support Simon after Jean's death. While everyone is talking, Theo says he's hungry. Celine tells him the snacks on the table contain peanuts, but says he'll find something to eat on the kitchen drainboard. Alice tells Theo to stay where he is because dinner is almost ready, but Celine insists he'll be fine and then apologizes for overruling her. Moments later, Theo starts choking after eating a peanut cookie and is rushed to the hospital. When Celine and Damien arrive at the hospital, Alice attacks Celine and accuses her of trying to kill Theo. Alice is convinced Celine deliberately sent Theo into the kitchen so he would eat the peanut cookie. Simon refuses to believe her. He insists she's slipping back into the same paranoia she struggled with before and dismisses both her accusations against Celine and her theory about Jean's death. Convinced Celine has been behind everything from the start, Alice sneaks into her house while she's out, determined to find proof. She searches the rooms for Jean's missing heart medication, but comes up empty-handed. Just as she's about to leave, Celine comes home and catches her inside. Alice accuses her of replacing Jean's medication with placebos, breaking into her house to steal the pills, and deliberately trying to kill Theo. Celine reminds Alice that she has just lost her only child and asks how she could possibly think she's capable of such things. Then she throws her out of the house. Alice's obsession continues to spiral. She even throws away a gift Celine buys for Theo. Theo runs away from home looking for the present and eventually climbs onto the same balcony where Max lost his life. Standing on a ledge, he says he wants to join Max and Granny Jean because nobody is angry with each other where they are. Alice completely freezes, terrified she'll watch another child die. Celine carefully talks Theo down, admitting they have both made mistakes since Max's death. She promises they will stop fighting, stop blaming each other, and do better for him. And Theo finally climbs down safely. After everything that has happened, Simon decides they need a fresh start and rent a new house for the family. Alice visits Celine one last time to tell her they are moving away. She apologizes for all the accusations she made and admits she has started taking her medication again and is getting professional help. Celine also apologizes, confessing that she did blame Alice for Max's death, even though she knew it wasn't fair. The two finally acknowledge that neither of them handled their grief well and agree that the only thing that matters now is doing what's best for Theo. That day, Damien returns home from work, and Celine tells him that Alice and Simon are moving away. Damien isn't surprised and says she's been clinging to Theo ever since Max died and needs to let the family move on. Celine insists she and Theo understand each other because they have both lost someone they love. Damien tells her to leave Alice and Simon alone. He also makes it clear that he doesn't want Theo coming to their house anymore. That night, Celine drugs Damien with chloroform. Once he loses consciousness, she slits his wrist and stages the scene to look like he has taken his own life. Devastated by what appears to be another tragedy, Alice and Simon invite the grieving Celine to stay with them for a while. The next day, Alice goes to Celine's house to pack the rest of her belongings. While she's away, Celine puts sleeping pills into Simon and Theo's drinks. When Alice returns home, she realizes something is terribly wrong and rushes upstairs, where she confronts Celine. The two women fight, but Celine eventually overpowers her and sedates her. Celine then disconnects the boiler to fill the house with gas, staging the deaths of Alice and Simon as a tragic accident. The following morning, the authorities discover the bodies. Theo is found alive, while Celine is treated as another victim of the accident. Sometime later, she adopts Theo, getting her second chance to be a mother. The end. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time.